the R260. It still has the covering on the handle strap and the little protectors on the brass knobs, which we can remove now. I'll take the covering off the strap as well. Okay. We can see many design cues from this radio when we look at this compared to the red Roberts R21. The classic Roberts badge, the speaker, grill, the sort of leather cloth style covering. One thing to note here is Roberts had a period when the Roberts RD50, RD60 radios where the covering was very fragile. It was easy to damage, you could easily catch it with something, and a lot of them peeled. The Roberts have dealt with that now with these later radios, and it's a much more durable covering, and I'm sure it will last a lot longer than the earlier sets. It's nice to buy a radio that isn't DAB these days. It's FM, AM radio, so basically we have FM, medium wave, we have an off switch, a basic tone control, and a telescopic aerial, and the tuning scale. So as we turn the knob on the right, the pointer moves to the station. One thing I was a little disappointed with on this one is the tuning scale is very basic. We've got kilohertz or megahertz for FM, and it's just markers, numbers on the scale. I mean, I have an earlier Roberts revival set very similar to this, and that has the BBC station markers and various others, and it has long wave as well, and that's something that's been dropped from this radio. The other interesting thing is, like I pointed out to you on the earlier Roberts RT1, we have a back that still opens. Now Roberts has dropped this from all the other revival radios in the range, and they're all sealed now, all the DAB radios, the internet radios, but this, you can still open the back up and look inside. There's not much to see, but you can basically see there's a printed circuit board in the back, and you can put 4 D-size batteries in there. Currently we're plugged into the mains. Okay, I'll switch it on and see what we can find. Obviously we have to scan through the music. As you can see, it's picking up stations quite easily, but I've got to go to a talk station.
Number 7. But this is what is happening on Sunday evening here on Classic FM.
One family, 7.
Validate feelings, unpredictable, volatile, above the rules. I mean, the list goes on. Now, Charlotte identified with a lot of that. Do you?
Not as much as Charlotte, if I'm
As you
honest.
can see, it's got quite a nice tone.
Is Charlotte...
The tone button doesn't seem to do much, but
your train of thought now with regards to what she's
it does
learned
give
and
increased treble.
your memories of what you had with your mother?
If anything, it's made me feel a little bit more sympathetic
To
my mum, because she had these traits and she didn't have the mental capacity to...
I already get the sense, very quick into this conversation, that you obviously both have different perspectives of the same mother. And Charlotte
With the nice little brass caps and the carrying strap.
Therapy. My mother
A
was
little
a
buckle.
narcissist, and all these traits.
They're supposed to be
have
made in a wooden
impacted
case,
me
but
in certain ways.
it might have some relation to a tree, but I imagine it's recomposed wood in some sort
Did they
of
have an
moulded
impact
format.
on you?
I did see them to a slight extent, although we didn't know the term narcissistic at the time.
What's evident is the quality. It's very well put together, very well finished. You've got the little brass caps on the top of the knobs there.
Vulnerable at times. Volatile.
Roberts is a British
Yes.
company
Wanting
with
to
a history dating back to about
make sure that
1932.
situations centred around
It was
her when they
Roberts were
leave,
taken
so-
over around about 1994. I'll just turn this down a bit.
And believes that
Roberts were taken over around about 1994 by Glenn Dimplex.
I saw
who
And in the early 90s, Roberts was struggling as a manufacturer. I think they'd started to have some of the radios made in the Far East, China, places like that. Cases were still made in the UK, and it was about 1994 that Glenn Dimplex took over the company.
why you feel the compassion for your mum.
And in my opinion,
I'm just interested.
I think they've done well with the brand. They've kept true to its heritage.
because I never
The adverts for Roberts used to be the finest of all portables, and that's what Roberts still do. They make a very good portable radio.
No, that's because I wasn't.
I've no connection with the company itself, and this is just my interest in vintage radios.
And good for
Roberts
her,
being one of my favourites.
adult decision to make. I had more manipulation again, which again just.
I've just dimmed the light in a little bit. Another interesting fact about this radio is the tuning scale is illuminated. It's hard to pick up, but I think you can see that there is illumination there. At night time, it's quite nice. There's a nice effect with the radio.
It put me in a position where I choose my mum.
Okay, we'll turn over to medium wave. Put the aerial away. Let's see what we'll pick up on this one. As if you remember on the Roberts RT1, we did pick up quite a few stations quite clearly.
What we'll say is you and I. I've got to do something about it. Don't get these silly little Burke MPs coming out.
Okay, being medium wave, it will be directional, so if you move the set around, you'll get a better signal.
I get you. They've actually taken this line of an approach even after the game came and went, and before it, both clubs.
In my view, it's not quite as clear
So, I mean, I
as
do
the
suppose
RT1.
There's no other.
There's a Radio
no other
5
solution.
Live.
Well, the more you put the fans here reap what they sow, don't they? Every day, all this segment of fans that behave this
So
way.
some
and this is the
things
trait
don't
that I always
improve.
maintain about shutting
But
down
it's a
stadiums
medium
and
wave
making
radio.
them
There's not
buy
many
goals,
radios you can
because
pick up
it
these
penalises
days
the masses for the
that
behaviour
have
of
medium
the
wave. So
Tragically, this is the
we'll give that a tick.
Go away and start to break away, have her own life.
But in the UK, there's not much to pick up on medium wave anyway.
BBC Sound. BBC Radio 5 Live.
Liverpool's approach here. Liverpool, we've been in contact with the Premier League and Manchester City to challenge this decision. The club's committed to having as many fans as possible in stadiums for Premier League matches. Okay, but for this one, surely they know.
Jenny, that's the one. The Mark Tarley Morning Show, brought to you by Shua.
Okay, so for me, the radio's best on FM, which is where I'll be using it most.
Traits in her. So I felt
Great
I could
set
at
for
least
listening to
talk
Radio
about
4.
that with him. So I've got that sounding board, whereas Charlotte hasn't. It's good to revisit it, but I don't want to dwell on it either.
Okay, hope you enjoyed my video and looking at my Roberts R260. If there's any questions or anything you'd like to ask or share an interest with, please comment below. Thank you for watching.